But this also isn't to say that I feel like deeply motivated every single day. I think it comes and goes in waves, and I think that's okay. Hi, and welcome back to Running Rants with Helen. As always, I am Helen, and today I'm running on Prosser Dam Road. I ran for like 45 minutes on the dirt road, but apparently Jacob can't one wheel on 6 inches of ice, so we're on the real road. Yeah, and today I wanted to talk about motivation and kind of what keeps me motivated and how that changes with seasons. Because very honestly, I was not very motivated today. I flew back from athlete summit thing for Hoka up in Portland, and I was there for like 5 days, which was super cool. But also then getting home and it was cold, and I was gonna Nordic ski this morning, but just didn't really feel very good and felt pretty tired. So opted to just go for a shorter run. And I think that's like one of the things that can like tie into motivation is like, yeah, maybe I didn't feel motivated to go Nordic ski, but then I can like go run. Or sometimes I really don't feel that motivated to run, but like there's other things that I feel really motivated to do, like uphill ski or cross country ski. I feel like I've also been thinking about this because I've been like obsessed with the Chipotle Strava challenge. If you don't know what it is, Jamil has made like some great videos. I was aware of Kevin Russ before this because of a different Strava challenge. And yeah, that guy is nuts and will do anything, it seems like, for a Strava challenge. So it like had me thinking like, what in the world could possibly motivate someone to like spend 7-8 hours a day running the same point, like I guess it's like 300 meter segment for a whole month. And I don't think, like, it's obviously not the reward. Like, I don't think that the 52 burritos you get or whatever from that challenge are worth it, especially when you're dealing with like your car getting towed. And so I think it goes like back to motivation, like in my life. So like it's not always the outcome that's the motivation, because I guess in this sense, like the outcome would be a race result. And I think sometimes that can be part of the like what motivates me, just because I mean nothing feels as good as winning. But I also like don't really think that's enough. And so when I was thinking about this, like especially during winter, I think it's like fun to find little things. Like, so I very recently like found out that one of our ski resorts at home has a way that you can just buy an uphill pass, and that used to not be the case. So I already have a downhill ski pass at like a different resort, and I started going. I went like one morning with some of my friends with like my normal backcountry setup. Then like one of those friends somehow had like a bunch of demo skis that were way lighter, and so then I went back the next day, and then I went back that night, because I don't know, I feel like also when you're able to like try hard and see progress, like that's also pretty fun motivation. Like I think Strava honestly is pretty good for that, because it's fun to see like if you can move up in the top 10 or like get a little crown, even though like it doesn't mean anything and it's silly. I feel like it kind of goes towards like my like competitive nature of just like wanting to try to do something faster, and it almost makes it like a mini baby race where like there's a woman here in town, and she's the only person here who like will consistently take my crowns. And so now sometimes I'll just look at whichever one she has on her list and I'll just try to go get hers. Like last year and during winter, Jacob and I drove to run like 0.8 miles just to like take one, which is so silly. It's so pointless, but it's fun. And I think like at the root of all of it, that like fun is like my main motivator, especially because like there's moments, especially during summer, when I'm like out in the mountains where like I think I feel such a pure form of joy that I don't normally get to feel other times. And so to be able to have like those moments, you also have to train for them, or else, I don't know, having a sufferfest isn't always like the most fun, even though it can be. So I guess that's like kind of a big motivation for winter too. Also, like, I don't know, signing up for races, I definitely don't want to show up and feel unprepared and just get my ass absolutely kicked because I didn't put work in. But yeah, I think the motivation changes a lot during winter and summer, and I feel like it's easier to find during summer because like, ooh, it's warm and there's like, I just want to be outside and in the mountains. And then winter, it's a little bit trickier to find those things. But I think having, like I said, multiple activities really helps. Running with friends, I have, like, usually I started doing this for every week. I'll write down what my intention is for the week. And before I was in Portland, that intention was to spend more time with other people exercising. And so I feel like I did a pretty good job. I think there was only one day I ran by myself. And so it's stuff like that too. And then you get to hear other people talk instead of just ringing your noggin all the time. And then, yeah, summer, I feel like I don't really need to like search for the motivation as much. I think sometimes I can get stuck in like little patterns of running in the same places, but I've talked about it a little bit on here about how I made trail bingo. And I feel like that helped a lot and kept it really fun, because then if I was like, oh, I don't know where I want to run, then it was easy to just look at bingo in there. I have all sorts of choices. But this also isn't to say that I feel like deeply motivated every single day. I think it comes and goes in waves, and I think that's okay. But I think when you know that it's like tied to you feeling good and like your life being better, it makes it a little bit easier even when you don't necessarily feel like you want to. Because I've also learned that most of the time when I don't feel like going outside or whatever it is, it's usually not that bad once you get there. And I usually don't feel worse. I feel like I normally am way better off after I do the thing that I kind of didn't want to do. I think part of this too, though, is I obviously like don't feel motivated. I think it'd be harder to feel motivated as often as I do if I was just like hammering and running as hard as I can all the time. Like most days are pretty chill and pretty easy. And so then it's just like a nice, fun, chill time. I get my outdoor enrichment. That sounds like I'm a dog. I think it was interesting too, because like being up in Portland, there were triathletes, I think only 2 of them, and then like road and track runners who were all sponsored by Hoka there too. And I feel like it was really interesting to talk to them about like their sport and just how different it is. I just think it's interesting whenever you get like track, road, and trail people, because we all run, but the way that we all run and how we all run and why we all run is so different. I feel like especially the triathletes, they're like, we are literally only running because we have to. Although not Heather, I mean, I guess she's a trail runner now. I would say more than a triathlete, and she liked the running part, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to hear like why people train and I guess like their thought process behind it, because I feel like I don't relate a lot of the time, even though we are all doing the same thing in a way.
Okay, so what role do you think like planning plays when it comes to staying motivated?
I think like planning,
Yeah.
I think it can play a decent role. Like, do you mean in regards to like races?
Well, I think like planning races, and I think also like you talked about trail bingo. So you kind of have this menu of items to pick from when you're not sure what to do that day, and you've kind of already pre-planned that. Like, seems like a lot of it has to do with just like giving yourself options.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. It's like planning, but then being like very flexible with your plan. Not like, well, I'm gonna do this bingo square this day, and this bingo square this day, and this bingo square this day. I feel like being a little bit more flexible with it, or even like today, I don't think it would have been super beneficial for me to like go Nordic ski a bunch if it wasn't gonna, I mean, I don't think training always has to be fun, but if I wasn't gonna like enjoy it and it was just gonna put me in a deeper hole, it just doesn't really make sense. So I feel like having different activities to choose from also really helps. Yeah, loose plans.
Cool. Are there ever situations where you feel like you're overly ambitious in your training and you have to kind of back yourself off? And is there strategies you use for that?
Yes, but I normally don't know until the next day. Like that the day I woke up, I skied like 2 laps uphill, and then I went and I ran, and then I went and skied again uphill, and the next day I had a long run, and it took me a minute to realize that I kept being like, man, I am so tired. Like, what could I possibly be tired from? I was tired from the previous day of activity, so I feel like sometimes I get really excited like about what I'm doing, and so then I want to do like all of it as much as I can, and then I'm fine until literally the next day hits, and then I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I think that's also why Rick is a really good resource for me, because I don't do that very often, and I'll like run it by him and he's like, yeah, that's totally fine. And then like we kind of adjust my training from that. Like the next day, I was supposed to run like 20 to 30 miles, which is a pretty big range, and so I ran 20 miles. And so I think, yeah, sometimes I get a little overly ambitious, but I just pay for it later.
Talk a little bit about the way that you structure your year, and like, does that have anything to do with mixing up activities and kind of keeping yourself doing different things to stay excited?
Yeah, like I said, I feel like it's a little like less difficult during summer because I'm just way more stoked to be outside in like this way, in like running way. But I mean, I think that's a big thing that Rick and I talk about when we start thinking about races for the year, and then how I plan them based off of where I live. Because if I were to go run like I think Trans Gran Canaria would be pretty hard for me, just because it's like hilly and in February. But I think Tarawera is okay because, well, first of all, our winter has not been great, but second of all, it's flat, so I think Nordic skiing translates a little bit better, and I'm still like able to run in Auburn or Reno, and I don't have to get up mountains or have like sustained climbs. So yeah, I think with that, and then just like how my training changes based off of the races that I've decided to do. Like we were just talking about on our run, like I probably won't race with poles at all this year, which is kind of crazy because last year it felt like the summer of poles. Like I had lucky glove tan lines. So I don't think that'll be the case this year. So I think even switching it up from year to year can keep it like motivation and excitement pretty high. This has been another episode of Running Rants with Helen. If you have any tips on how to stay motivated, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.